Hello, good morning or afternoon. It's noon. I used to do these lives at 10 and now it's at noon. Anyway, welcome. Um, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about re-entry anxiety because a lot of people have been asking me about it. When I was posting about it in the group, it seemed like a topic people needed help with. And yeah, it's sort of weird. Who knew we we would be here, right? So as you know, if you've listened to or watched any of my lives, that everything that's going on and everything that we're feeling right now is in our brain, right? It's all in our unconscious mind. And what's been happening is, over the time of COVID, sorry, my phone's ringing and it's distracting me. Um, what's happening in this time with COVID is that our brain is always looking for safety and stability, right? And there hasn't been any for like what, 14 months or something like that. So our brain has sort of gotten used to that a little bit, right? We talk about the new normal. Our brain's sort of like, okay, like I'm sort of learning how to navigate and adapt to this. It's unsafe, but I can get it, right? And now we're giving our brain messages that, yeah, it's safe now. Go now. It's all fine. I don't think it really is, right? So our poor brain and our unconscious mind is like, what the actual hell is going on? And remember that all this stuff is going on behind the scenes in the unconscious, right? Consciously, we might, you know, believe it's safe. I've had both my vaccines, it's safe, I can go do things, whatever. And our unconscious mind is like, hell no, you've just spent 14 months telling me that it's not safe. And now I'm used to not safe. And now I'm supposed to just flip over and be safe? What the hell, right? So what do we do, right? It's it's a really different, interesting situation. So remembering that it's about the past, right? So the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that there isn't any unaddressed past trauma, not necessarily to do with COVID, but maybe, right? Because our brain's always going to go back there and loop that trauma. So, um, realizing if there is past trauma and what it is so that you can deal with that. Again, it's something that I help my clients do all the time. You might have your own thing that you do. And then also remembering and reminding your brain that you can create safety, right? You can keep yourself safe. You have been doing it your whole life. And there's been a lot more situations where you have been safe than that you haven't, probably, right? But remember, our brain goes to that negative and creates that negative loop all the time. So, very, very specifically reminding yourself of all the safety you've had in your life. And probably, like, right this moment, you're safe. I'm sitting in my office at home and I'm safe, right? And so, really giving your brain that message, okay? And I know that I'm lucky and I can work from home, and a lot of you have to go out to work and you might not feel safe, right? So, what I would say to that is to create safety whenever you can, right? So just be very aware, but as you're creating safety, do it from a place of protection and not fear, okay? Because we don't want that brain to get those fearful anxiety messages. So, instead of being like, oh, there's someone without a mask on in my store and I'm freaking out and I'm going to get COVID and I'm staying away from them, reframe that as, oh, that person, isn't wearing a mask. That's making me not feel safe. How can I make myself feel safe in this moment? Right? So just having a bit of reframing and creating a bit of an invisible shield around you. Now, I know it's invisible, okay? And I know germs can pass through it or whatever. But a lot of this work is creating a safe space in your brain so that you're going to be able to start going back to living life how you want to live it, right? So, when you just visualize a tube or a shield around you that's bouncing germs off it and keeping you totally safe. Okay. Because remember, all we want to do is trick our unconscious mind, right? That's the whole point of all this work, is to trick our unconscious mind and our brain so that it actually makes those new beliefs real, okay? So that's something that you can do and try. And again, little by little exposure, all right? Our unconscious mind, because it's now so used to a certain way of life, and now we're like, oh, no, changing it again. Let's introduce things slowly, okay? So, maybe you're not going to go from staying at home for 14 months to a giant concert packed in with people. Not that I even think that's possible. But maybe you're going to do little things. So maybe it's going to be sitting on a patio or going to a store you hadn't been to or whatever, because every time you do that, right, and you're fine after, your brain is going to be like, oh, okay, that was okay, check, right? So again, you're creating that neurology in your brain that, okay, I am safe, I'm in control of this, all that good stuff, okay? So don't stress yourself out by feeling like you have to do too much too soon. If you're have that choice, right? Work is different, and work, you're going to need that invisible shield maybe, or to keep reframing those beliefs and just try, to do things that create that feeling of safety within you, because that's all we can do. I'm just looking at my list because I don't want to miss anything. Also, being aware of what's appropriate and what's inappropriate. Is this fear and anxiety I'm feeling right now about going shopping or whatever? Is it appropriate or is it not appropriate? And if you're not sure, do some journaling around it, right? How am I feeling? What's true? What's real? Because I think, we're in this big bubble right now of, fear and protection. And, yeah, it's a virus and we do need to keep ourselves safe, right? And everyone has to navigate that for themselves. But I think if we're able to kind of step out of that fear, because now our brain is used to that, right? And, ask myself, is this appropriate, right? What's actually going on here? What's actually going on with this fear and this belief? And if it's appropriate, right, our brain creates fear and anxiety often for appropriate reasons, right? I don't run into traffic because I'm not necessarily afraid, but kind of afraid because I know I'm going to, probably regret that decision and possibly get hit by a car, right? So just remember that appropriate versus inappropriate response, and do some journaling and really thinking around that, because that can also help, right? Because if we're feeling something and we really look at it and we're like, oh, yeah, that's probably not appropriate in this moment, it's a little bit easier to help ourselves move past it. And then I would also say to do some journaling, right? How am I safe? How have I been safe in the past, right? Keep it positive, right? What am I grateful for around this experience? What am I learning about myself through all of this? And that can also be really helpful because it's going to build resiliency in your brain. The other thing is always, always, always go back to the meditation, right? Being present within yourself is always going to take you out of fear. And I always recommend Insight Timer to my clients. It's free and it's awesome. And you can just probably search, I don't know, COVID anxiety, maybe even, I don't know, or whatever you feel like you need in the moment in order for you to start creating those new resilient neural patterns. Okay, so those are some things you can work on for that re-entry anxiety. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post them under the group. And I hope this has been helpful. Have a good weekend.